Hi and welcome to Motorsport Geek channel that used to be Formula Chat, but a little bit of a name change, a little bit of a rebranding, and today I'm going to be showing you, and it is a privilege to be stood between two cars with a massive amount of motorsport history. I'm going to take you up close to the Williams FW14B and the Lola T93 Indy car. These are the cars that Nigel Mansell, that Formula One legend, he won his Formula One world title in that car in 1992, and then the IndyCar Championship in 1993 in the Lola, the only driver currently to have ever won back-to-back titles. So let's go and have a look at these two cars. So here at Motorsport Geek channel, I do like to get you up close to some of these wonderful vehicles. And what we've got here to start with is Nigel Mansell. You can tell by the red 5, Williams FW14B. Now this car, it always tops the polls in those, you know, which is the best F1 car ever built, along with the McLaren 4.4. This is one of the stunners. This car is an original. It's owned by Williams Heritage. This one, the Renault V10 engine in the back here made a massive noise and propelled this car to for Nigel Mansell 9 out of the 16 race wins that year and the Formula One World Championship. We're going to start by taking a look inside the car, and the first thing you notice is how very different it is to Formula One cars of today. Simple round steering wheel, yes we have, and if I just get the camera in there, you can see the paddles at the back to undertake the gear changes, but other than that, just a couple of simple dials. You've got the chassis plate and everything there, and the safety belts. You notice stood next to this car how low the sides are. You can see Nigel Mansell's name just here, but the car side's very low. The driver's head and shoulders really exposed, and it wasn't until the awful events of 1994 at Imola with Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger where really the car sides and head protection really started to change. And obviously today we have a very different look with the halo. Now these cars were really renowned for the very trick suspension they had. So underneath these covers here are the suspension. They attached to the push rods just here, and they were able to move the car multiple times to keep the aero platform as stable as possible. And it was this trick technology that really assisted this car in being so successful and copied by many other teams. By 1993, the following year, that sort of technology was banned. But we can look, you can really see the kind of Adrian Newey simplistic design of this car. If you look at the aero, everything from the front wing, slight anhedral nose, so that was originally brought in by a chap called Harvey Postlethwaite at Tyrrell, but developed by car designers like Adrian Newey to help the air go under the car and over. You've got, as you can see, we're trying to direct the air around these very un-aerodynamic front tyres, and you've got these ducting that go underneath the suspension wishbones just here. Suspension wishbones have started to be tapered, so they've got a little bit of air effect to them, but they are metal, they are not carbon. It was another couple of years before we got to carbon. Other things you'll notice, the very simplistic wing mirrors on the car here. The Camel logo, I've had questions about that before. In the UK, you weren't allowed to have the name of the cigarette sponsor, Camel cigarettes, so it had to just be the Camel. If you look up close, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but you can actually see how thin the paint is. You can actually see the carbon weave underneath the paint. Actually, I've got a good view of it just there. Hopefully the camera's going to pick that up. You can see the carbon weave underneath. You can see how thin the paint was to again have that light effect. Rear wings, very different to what we've got today. You've got the different planes of the wings running right way down to the back of the diffuser on this car. Give you a good glimpse of the diffuser at the back of this car. World Championship winning Formula One car that Nigel Mansell drove in 1992. He then, whether you argue that he had a bit of a falling out with Williams, but he had essentially made the decision to move to IndyCar, and this is where the privilege steps in, because right next to Nigel Mansell's Formula One Williams is the Lola T93, and it's the only time in the world these two cars have ever been sat next to each other. Lola, the Huntingdon-based firm, made these cars, and they were all conquering. This is the one from the Indy 500, so slightly different to some of the Indy cars you would have seen in different races, because you've got these very, very small front wings. We're really we're trying to kind of create air stabilization but not create the drag. So we'll move to the rear wing and look at the kind of T-tray rear wing at the back. You'll notice lovely little details like these little turning vanes here, and what they would do, they would enable the mechanics to very quickly turn that, and it would move these front wings up or down a little bit, enabling setup changes to be made mid-race. Of course, the Indy 500 much longer than a Grand Prix, 500 miles, normally sort of 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Little bits of aero effects going on here. You've got the early form of barge boards going on here, no step obviously to indicate you can step on that to get into the car. Looking inside the car, this is a bit of a wow moment. Very, very simplistic in some ways. You've got a manual gearbox down here. As you can see the gear handle there. Very simple dials, and you've got the ability to move the rockers, the suspensions from side to side there. You've got the chassis plate there. This is the Lola Indy cars. It's chassis 27 on there. And you've got various different bits of information on the inside of the car. You've got sponsors that are a little bit different. As we make our move down to the back, you've got the pop-off valve that sits here. The idea of this was to limit some of the engine power, though I know engineers did work trick ways around it. You'll notice the suspension and the drivetrain at the back here, very, very small. As I say, that T-tray rear wing that sits at the back of the car there, creating minimal drag, but also creating downforce. When you stand at the back of the car, you notice it looks, or it certainly has a sensation of being much bigger than the Formula One car. It's actually not. They're very, very similar size, but because of the way the bodywork is laid out with the aero at the back here, you can see these fins to direct air over the top of the rear wheels. They look a little bit different. The car's actually staggered in one direction. When you try and move it, the way the diff works, it actually makes it very, very difficult to move the car because the whole car's cambered in a different way, unlike a Formula One car. And the reason is, of course, the car only went round corners that went to the left. Great view underneath the gearbox here and the drivetrain. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a look across these two wonderful cars. They have been an absolute pleasure to be in and amongst. And last little look, any comments, any likes, please grab them and ask any questions.